Alright, what's up everybody? Got another video here about the top 5 Korean manhwa you should be reading right now. Just to clarify though, this is not my top 5 overall list or anything like that. Don't let that confuse you though, because these are very popular and definitely worth the read. So, I've gone ahead and ordered these by bingeability. Alright, let's get started here at number 5 with Lookism. On the surface, this is a story about how people are discriminated against because of how different they are and how they look. But that's not all it's about. The story revolves around one character who's been bullied for most of his life. But by some miracle, he ends up with a second body that he can use as well. After transferring schools, he begins his quest to start making friends, money, and raking in the popularity. This often results in some pretty awkward moments for our main character, as well as some pretty funny times for us as our main character is forced to find his way out of trouble. This story isn't just a slice of life, but it also has some elements of martial arts in it as well. And because our character was bullied so much, he's learned some fighting techniques along the way, it seems. And don't let the fact that this story is about a bunch of 17-year-old freshman high schoolers confuse you. It's definitely meant for a more mature audience. Overall, I'd say it does a really good job of keeping the reader engaged, but I would say that some of the arcs can be a little bit repetitive, and the character can be, himself sometimes, which can be a letdown. And don't worry, there's a lot of chapters out there for you to power through if you get engaged, but once you get caught up, that's all there is. You have to be waiting for the weekly releases. But I guess you can use that time to get into shape with this easy workout method. Coming in next at number 4, we have Peerless Dad. With a title like that, it should be pretty obvious what this story is about. Martial arts, dads, and children, of course. That's right. These little guys are as much a part of this story as our main character is, and they pretty much drive every decision he makes throughout the story. Being a great dad and adhering to his own values is what actually makes this character so interesting, and it really creates some compelling story later when the kids start growing up. So, in order to create a stable environment to raise his kids, he joins one of the major families as a bodyguard, and inadvertently enters the world of martial arts. And as you can imagine, this gets him into some predicaments, but only because he is actually insanely powerful, more so than even he realizes. Unfortunately, there aren't a whole lot of chapters for this out there yet, so if you're like me, you're going to be stuck checking back every single day for an update. Luckily though, for both of us, chapter 50.5 of Peerless Dad is actually the first chapter of Red Storm. These are both written by the same author. There is a light novel for both of these. Unfortunately, Peerless Dad is not translated into English, but you can find the light novel for Red Storm out there as well as the manhwa. Alright, so moving on to number 3, we have Solo Leveling. Honestly, I think some people might give me some flack later for putting this at number 3 instead of number 1. But that's alright. This story is about a rather ordinary character and his quest to become the strongest character in the world. A world where magical dungeons open up in the middle of the modern world. And some people have been given superpowers or magical powers to enter these gates and fight what's inside. In this world, people cannot become stronger or level up. But entering these gates, they can become extremely wealthy. I mean, that's also true for our main character until an unfortunate accident happens inside of a dungeon one day. And he becomes the player. A person who can level up, unheard of in this world of magic and dungeons. As long as he follows a simple workout regimen, he'll go from the weakest hero to the strongest one. Well, his quest isn't quite that simple. There are some obstacles he has to overcome along the way, as well as other heroes. I'd say these other characters he has to interact with actually make the story a lot more engaging, and they're well done. And this is a story I wasn't able to put down until I was done reading, and then I picked up the light novel, and found out I made the biggest mistake of my life. Where you would be picking it up after the manhwa, the light novel is unreadable, as badly translated as it is. Alright, so let's move on to number 2 on the list. Skeleton Soldier couldn't protect the dungeon. Alright, I might catch a little bit of flack on this one because the crazy train comes completely off the rails at the end of the first season. But I've read the synopsis for the whole series, and I gotta say, the story looks like it's going to be phenomenal from here on out. So the story follows a skeleton soldier who died protecting his mistress. And so he wakes up 20 years in the past, and he is given an option to change history, as well as change his own mistakes. Now, for an added twist here, when he revives back in the past, he actually retains all of his knowledge, skills, and abilities that he's learned in his last life. So, at the beginning, he grinds it out until he becomes powerful to lay the beat down. And for once, he is actually able to protect somebody that matters to him. And this is where our skeleton story actually begins. Now, what sets this one apart from the ones before it in my list and the one after it is that you have a hero that can actually lose. But beyond that, you get a story and a plot that is actually deep and engaging and keeps you coming back wondering what the heck is going to happen next in the story. What I mean is there's a lot going on here underneath the story that is being presented to you, and they just give you little bits of it at a time. But unfortunately, the only thing available to us right now is the first season of the Manhwa, and the light novel, unfortunately, has not been translated at all. Alright, so let's get to number 1 on my list here. We've got the legendary Moonlight Sculptor. Alright, if you haven't heard of this one, you can thank me later. And there's no way you guys can complain about me putting this at number 1, especially with how popular it seems like it is on the wikis and everything else. Now, our main character in this story is a guy who was probably the world's greatest hardcore gamer, or at least in the game he plays, called Magical Continent, where he is now going to sell his character to pay off some debts and make some money because he's bored of it, and there's another video game coming out that he wants to play. Now, he sells his character for an absurd amount of money, and the Mafia shows up the next day to collect all of it, except for $90,000, and they challenge him to go collect another ridiculous amount of money to prove to them that he is not some schmuck. Now, making money is what this story is about, but I mean, that really doesn't do this story justice. So, he goes into this new video game, and just goes on some crazy adventures, becomes crazy powerful, plays a crazy amount of time, and nobody even knows who he really is anymore after he sold his character because there's so many people playing this new game. So outside of being just a super badass, he levels up all of his sub-skills like cooking and leatherworking and skinning and sculpting, which is his class, of course, to just absurd levels beyond anybody's belief, and does these things that nobody knew was even possible in the game, and it's just a load of fun to go out there and read. Now, if you didn't notice, the art style between Season 1 and Season 2 is worlds different. This one right here is from the second season. And, of course, if you're wondering, if you get caught up to the end of the story, yes, there is a light novel, and yes, it is all translated out there, and you can read the whole story out there, and it's fantastic. I love it. So, I want to let you guys know, thanks for watching all the way to the end, if you did. And make sure you put a comment down below if you think I made a mistake somewhere on here, or if you think I was just way off base with these, or if you think something else would be a much better read and would be way more popular these days. Just let me know, and maybe in the future I'll plan to do a top 5 of manhwa in general, or from specific genres. But also, just remember, the like button is right there if you liked it, and the subscribe button is down there if you'd like to get more videos like this in the future. Make sure you hit that button, because that lets me know that people actually care. Until next time, everybody. I know last time it was quite a long while before my next video like this, and I apologize about that.